Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrak and Kelly Cole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is episode 98 of Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, and we are so excited to have a guest today, Robert Rufino of House Beautiful magazine. Robert is a native New Yorker. His career began at Henry Bendel, where he was in charge of window presentation and store design. From there, he ventured into the world of magazines. He has worked for Elle Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, Taxi, and the New York Times. He was also the vice president of creative services worldwide at Tiffany & Company for 13 years. Wow. After that, he worked for House Beautiful, Town & Country, Architectural Digest, and Elle Decor. And for the past 2 years, Robert has been the style director at House Beautiful. So we are thrilled and honored beyond words to have him as our guest today.
So let me explain how I had a conversation with Robert. So back in early July, House Beautiful put out an open call on Instagram inviting designers to set up 30-minute free appointments as a portfolio review with Robert. I was like on that in 2 seconds.
I missed it, so yeah. Thank God she was on it.
Signed up right away. Actually sort of forgot about it because I got the call back in November that I had my 30-minute call. So let's go ahead and talk about your idea for this, Robert, these 30-minute portfolio sessions, and just tell us how that got going.
And welcome to the show.
Yes.
Well, good morning, and thank you both for having me. I'm delighted to be here with your audience. How it all started, when COVID hit, and then we had all these horrible other things going on in the world. I spoke to my editor-in-chief, Joe Saltz, and I said, we really need to do something special to reach out to designers. And to me, it was more like a feel-good. And it was, for me, I needed to extend myself to designers. And anyone could send me a project, as we know. But when you get a project on paper, but when you really have a face-to-face with a designer to talk about what their needs are, and it's just not young designers. It could be established designers. I met a designer for, he and his wife have been in business for 20 years and were never published. They did get published, okay? So they had a project that I loved, and it just so happened it worked out. So for me, this was a way to, with people not connecting and seeing each other or coming into the office, it was for me to give back, basically. I just feel in my career, which there's a long history there, as you just announced that, and there was a little bit more than I've done. I'm not as old as I look, but I've been around the block, as they say. For me, basically, it was a feel back. It was a payback to say, I've had a great career. I've had a great journey. I am not done. I will continue to work as long as I can because I love what I do. I don't work. What I do is I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think everyone needs a helping hand. And that's what this thing was about. It was reaching out to people and say, hey, let's talk. How can I help you? You know,
a lot of designers are very intimidated by people like you. I mean, editors, they're really up on this pedestal, and we're a little nervous to send things.
Yeah. I mean, you've never met me, but most people have to laugh. Say, "Oh my God, he's so intimidating." It's like, you know what, guys? It stops right there. You can't judge a book by its cover, okay? And that's how I describe it. I look the way I look, and you know what? Like even Joe said, Robert, you always seem so serious. I have a wicked sense of humor. I have a huge heart, and I care about people. And I know what it's like not to have work. I know what it's like to be down in the dumps. And people just need a pat on the back, and people just need encouragement. And I'm a human being, and as I said from the beginning, for me, this was for the design industry to give back something to them and to help them. And when I get on these calls, the first thing I say, I'm not going to yes you to death. I'm very honest. If you want my advice, and if you don't, then we don't need to be talking,
You cooked up this idea with Joanna. And so how many interviews have you had so far?
We probably had, in the short period of time, I would say 75 to 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
And
have
that
been
we-
busy.
Well, I was doing it every Friday, and I was doing about 7 on a Friday, which at the end of the day, I didn't know up from down. It was like, oh my, that's a lot.
Well, let's see. I talked to you at 3:30 on a Friday. I probably was number 7. I thought you were
No,
great.
no.
He had a stiff drink when he was done with you.
When I talked to you, after doing that for a few months, I decided, you know what, that's way too much. And then I lose my focus, and then everything is a blur. So what I do now, it's called open call or open house, and Tiffany coordinates them. I may do 2 on 2. I'll do at least 6 a week, sometimes 7, but it's every day I do some. So it's better for me. I'm more focused. When you see 7 people in a row, it's like when you get to the last one, that's totally not fair, because it's like, oh, okay, let me go through this.
Yeah.
Again, So
besides your call with Joanne Kandrak, who I'm sure was one of your absolute favorites, are there any interviews that you've had of that 100 that really stick out to you?
Sure. I mean, there are a few. I really don't want to name names, but some have been shining stars and
Nice.
have sent me some projects or are working on some projects, and some designers I'm still in touch with, and it's more. And some designers continue to say, "I'm working on this project. Can you give me advice? What am I doing wrong? Or can you suggest a photographer? Do I need a stylist? Look at this project that I just photographed. Can you tell me what is wrong with it or how to improve it?"
That's such valuable information.
Oh gosh, really?
I mean, it's very rewarding, because when you get a handwritten note from a designer, it's like, wow. When you get flowers or a gift, it's like, okay, guys, this is not what it's about. It's not about sending Robert Rufino a gift. I'm giving you the gift of my time, and you're giving me the gift of meeting you. And hopefully you will send me a project that I can use in the magazine.
So what is, like, when you are, you sift through like hundreds of projects, I know, and decide what you submit to Joanna for consideration. So what's kind of like the main thing when you're choosing? I know, a lot of times people say they're looking for a story. Like what do you, when a project comes in front of you, what do you of course it has to be beautiful, but what are you really looking at?
Okay. So hopefully sometime this year, I'm going to go back to shoot. Okay. There's been a stop on travel. Yes, I've done a few shoots, if I get in a car and go to Connecticut or a shoot in New York. But when I look at a project, whether it's professionally photographed or not, and I'm going to photograph it, I'm looking for a message. I'm looking for a project that has a surprise element that the reader is going to learn something from. I'm looking for a project that I want to be in that room. And it's also not about me. It's like when we open the magazine and we go to the well, if we have 8 projects or 6 projects, there has to be a flow. So for instance, if we're working on the color issue, I'm looking for the best 8 projects that talk about color, how people use color. And Also, of course, right now, because I'm not shooting, I'm looking for really good photography and great styling. And it has to feel very much of what I do and what's right for House Beautiful. Because, when Joe came to House Beautiful, when we relaunched House Beautiful 2 years ago, and Joe asked me to join, and I was at El Decor at that time, I thought, well, this could be a great challenge because it's like starting over. We want to put a new stamp on the magazine. So I do believe, and kudos to Joe, within 2 years' time, we have given House Beautiful a new look and a new identity. It's fresher, it's younger, it's more interesting. There's something in it for everyone. You can go to something that's very family oriented, something that's very pretty, something that's very stark, something that's absolutely colorful. There's a lot of architecture.
Yeah, I have to agree. It definitely does have a whole new look.
It really does. I enjoy it so much.
And, we have to be something for everyone. And don't forget, this year we are celebrating 125 years of House Beautiful. House Beautiful
Unbelievable.
has
Wow.
a long, long history. And when you look at House Beautiful, yes, it has changed. But the world of magazines have changed. When you look at Architectural Digest, it's not what Architectural Digest was. El Decor now has a new editor-in-chief. So everything and everyone evolves. We evolve. The way we live at home, the way we dress, the way we think, the way we eat. And if you stay the same, you lose. Yes, you still have to keep up what your standards are in life and what you believe in, but we have to change because change means you grow. And
we were just talking about that in a team meeting the other day because we've been in business for 15 years and we were just talking about how we are so far from our moral base is the same, of course, but we're so far from those girls that started 15 years ago and the clients that we work with and the work we do and those in our circle and so forth. And so it's always a big part of our meetings and taking our team along for the ride that we are growing and changing the whole way.
And magazines, I feel like, are really, there's definitely the general public that are design enthusiasts and love that. But magazines to me for designers, it inspires us and it gives us things to look at. And I would have never put that with that, but look how good that looks. So I feel like a lot of our education is through the magazines.
Yes.
So I think designers really look to these for inspiration and for, almost even validation of some of the things that they're doing.
Well, exactly, because I think each issue we put out, we are putting out a magazine or a book. These are lessons of how you can live. Look through this magazine and what inspires you. Rip it out, put it in your folder, pin it up on your workboard. What are you getting from it? We are giving lessons to our readers to want to keep buying the magazine, but to be inspired. To call designers, whether you're in print or whether your story is online, we are putting out there to celebrate designers. I think Joe's philosophy is, yes, we do celebrate established designers, such as a Bunny Williams or a Robert Stillen. But on the same note, for me, it's great to find and celebrate and showcase new talent. A lot of magazines show the same designers.
Absolutely. I find that with show houses as well. Atlanta does a lot of show houses and you'll get the list and you'll be like, there's that person, there's that person. And then you'll see a different name and you'll be like, I want to.
Show houses, I will say, are very expensive for a designer to do. So sometimes, most of the time, you get a lot of established designers who have deep pockets because I know Kips Bay in New York, the show house here, it's a huge amount of money for a designer to put out. But they do because to be asked to do a room for Kips Bay is a great honor. And it's great exposure, whether you get a job or you may get great press, but it is an honor for a designer to be accepted into that circle.
Robert, I want to go back and ask you a quick question about when you were talking about you're looking forward in this year to getting out and shooting again. We've had scouts tell us that to forget the scouting shots, to only submit professional photography when submitting, which we put a lot of investment into our photography and have some great Atlanta photographers. And so we have followed that advice, but I'm wondering, do you see it? How do you feel about that? Are you okay with scouting shots, or do you prefer the professional? And do you think the day will come when the magazines shoot on their own again?
Well, as I said, I'm starting to shoot again. I have 2 shoots coming up, but those are in New York. Eventually, I have some shoots in a folder that are, one's in Chicago, one maybe in LA, that I will shoot. But for right now, for the last 6 to 8 months, I am buying projects I'm buying projects either that a photographer will submit to me or a designer will submit to me. And when I look at that film, it has to feel right. It has to have that surprise. It has to have that mystery. Each project has to look different in the magazine. Each project has to have a different voice than what was on the page before or the page after.
Do you prefer to shoot your own if you can?
Yes, I do. But the thing is,
do you have a set budget? Let's say travel was completely open and it was all good. Does the magazine have a set budget to photograph a certain amount per year?
Yes, we do.
Let me ask you another question. I'm sure many designers would like to know this. Do you feel like hiring a stylist is necessary?
101%.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that, not only am I style director, I go on most of the shoots, or probably all the shoots, and every now and then I'll use a freelance person, or I have one of my assistants, Sarah, she'll produce some shoots for me. Yes, this question comes up all the time. I do think when we photograph a project, a magazine sees your project from a whole different point of view. So it's the photographer for that project. I may use Thomas Luth for this project and Trevor for that project, because they do different things. Oh, this project needs, bright light. This project would be really good if it was moody. So that is what the genius of matching a good photographer with a stylist or an editor, whatever you want to call it. But I do believe a stylist brings another level of detail to the shoot, because he or she sees things differently. I was on a shoot way back when, and the decorator, oh, you didn't get the chair of the leg. It's like, this is not a catalog. The pictures I am taking are about inspiration and ideas. Yes, I will photograph the whole living room, and then I may come in and do a vignette or do half the room, and we may only use that picture because that picture says it all for that room. You don't have to photograph a whole bedroom to get the point across.
So let me ask you, I'm very curious. I shot my home with Emily Followell for Southern Home Magazine, and I have a lot of bright pink in my family room, and I had this big bouquet of tulips that had just fallen beautifully. They were just cascading over this big glass vase on the ottoman, and we submitted it, and the editor said, I just don't like tulips. I just don't like tulips. So we reshot it. I can't remember, with hydrangeas or something. So I'm wondering, when you go on these shoots, do you have an arsenal of things that you like?
When I
like to see, or that you like to use, or is that part of the mystery that you just?
when I arrive, it's a canvas. Okay. I have the scouting shots. I go to the flower market. I ask the designer, what bedding do you have? Do you have extra throws? Make sure there's enough pillows. And then, then we start to do the painting. Let's put these pictures together. Sometimes we rearrange furniture, not the whole room, but we move things, we eliminate things. It's taking your project to a different level. I photographed a young designer a few months ago, small apartment, and he's never been in a major magazine. And it was a studio. And I went there the day before, I looked around and, it says, okay. So, we had to take out some stuff because the apartment was small, but the apartment, he had a great point of view. It was basically, the living room was all black and white. But we just, reassembled the furniture and eliminated some things and moved some art around, and it worked. And, and he looked at me and I said, I'm here for one purpose, to get great pictures for the magazine and also to make you look good. We learn from one another. You painted, you designed this space, but I just want to give it, you can call it the House Beautiful touch or the Robert Rufino touch. So, I have a certain style and a certain point of view. And I think when people get to know, people could look in a magazine and say, oh, Robert did that. Because, designers are not, some designers are good stylists. Some designers are not. And I think when some designers photograph their projects, they're not doing it from an editorial point of view. They're doing it for their website, or they're doing it for their website, or do a presentation for a big client, or for it could be for interior of a store. So it's like we're not coming in to photograph your project like a catalog. I don't care about seeing the edge of a chair. I don't care about seeing every piece of furniture in a room. I want that sensation from each picture that I take that says something, that I want to walk into that room.
I think that's why our investment has paid off. We have paid. I remember we were at a conference and we asked
Clint
Smith said, "Who's your favorite?"
Yeah, a very, very, very good friend of mine, and
we love him.
Yes, and we said, Clinton, where
we work together.
Who are your favorite photographers? And so he told us, and we jumped in and we made those investments, and we have learned so much from them. It's such a partnership on our shoots. They're just fantastic.
When you look through the lens, it's looking through the lens. A great.
Oh, it's a completely different thing.
A great title for a book. When you look through the lens, you see things differently. I have a vision. The photographer has a vision. If you say, oh, Robert, what about if we do it from this angle, or pull back a little? Or I'll say, I like this, but let's pull back, or let's go to the right or the left. Those little details are so important that people don't really realize. Oh, so you just came in with a bunch of flowers and you had a photographer. That's not what it's about. It's rearranging bookshelves. It's rearranging china cabinets. It's setting a table. It's telling a story. Yes, bringing life. I think a thing about House Beautiful and the trend in magazines now is someone lives there. It doesn't look like a showroom. I'm not saying I'm not going to photograph something that is the perfect room and nothing's out of place, depending what the project is. But I think people want to see how people really live and that there is life in there. I'm not saying everything has to be messy, but there has to be some kind of patina on the pictures or in that space.
Yeah, I understand. So I have a question for you. So what is one of the most unique submissions you've had, or a location for a shoot that is really memorable to you?
In my career,
Yes.
I would say when I went to Scotland and I photographed the Prince of Wales.
No way.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's a memory.
Yeah, and that was an accident.
I didn't.
I was photographing this castle, Dumfries.
I did not know that.
And it was for AD. It was on the cover, and this was a beautiful castle. The owner, it had 2 or 3 different hands. The mother died. The son didn't want it. Everything was tagged to go to Christie's in London. Prince Charles came in. The grounds were beautiful. And he got a bunch of donors and saved the house. And the house was restored. And at the time, I was working for Architectural Digest underneath Margaret Russell. And I was on a shoot, and she said, "Hey, we have this project. How would you like to go to, do this castle?" I said, "Okay." So I went there, I met a wonderful photographer, Derry Moore, who's about 90 years old now, plus.
What year was this, Robert?
In the 90s.
Okay.
No, Robert. I think 2000. I have the 2000. It was in the early 2000. Okay. Anyway, long story short, it was like memorable. And then his press person was there the first day of the shoot, and she and I were talking, and she said, Prince Charles is coming. We're having a dinner party Sunday night for his donors. And wow. I don't know if you would be interested in photographing him. He's going to be in a kilt. I laughed and I said, "Let me think about it." And, he was amazing. He was just a delight. And, that things like that happen, I mean, I remember once photographing Elizabeth Taylor's house and the second day is the first day, she had been in the hospital and that night she died, and we had to go back the second day and finish the shoot. Things like that. Yeah. So, I mean, those are just
Robert, do you have a book in the works?
Yeah, it called Behind the Lens, just like you said.
It might be. I don't know. The making of an editor.
I mean, these stories are fascinating.
And also the thing about what I do is I get to travel to many wonderful places. I get to meet new photographers. I get to meet new designers. Like, I love LA. I love spending, and I have a whole box of friends and designers that I met, that I've worked with, who I've become friends, photographers who live there, who are friends. And you just, you just see all different ways of life, And then,
here's a crazy question. What did you, when you were a young boy, what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be? I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I went to the High School of Fashion Industries, where, believe it or not, was on West 24th Street. And the top 2 floors of that big building is where FIT started. And then FIT eventually moved to West 27th Street. And so I wanted to be a fashion designer. And then, I thought, you could just draw and be a fashion designer. Then you had to learn how to sew. You had to learn how to make patterns. And I went, oh my God, I'm going to go crazy. I mean, yes, I know how to sew and I know how to make patterns, but that's not what I wanted to do.
So this must be why you were on the international best dress list twice.
No. I don't know. Listen, I don't. But let's go back. So, my counsel, why don't you try like interior design or window display? And I was just intrigued with like filling, so that it was a marriage made in heaven. And that's how I started my career in designing windows and store design.
Wow. So what is one thing that, if we Googled you or we looked on your LinkedIn that nobody knows about you? Mm-hmm. He's pondering.
I think that I'm a really, really private person. I mean, yes, I go out, I'm social, but so many people don't really know the Robert Rufino.
Mm.
I
Do you want to give us a little insight?
Well, I choose my friends very carefully. I spend my weekends up in Rhinebeck, and clocks off. No one knows my life up there. No one knows who I am. I spend my time with my best friend that I've had a friendship with for 45 years that no one knows who he is, or very few. He's not a partner. We're just soulmates. And I'm very lucky to have a great friend like that. And, I'm very spiritual, believe it or not. I'm very spiritual. I love to write in books. I love to write poetry.
I think you got to get that book going.
That's about it. I am totally intense. I am driven. I am competitive, but I also have a heart and I care about people.
That's a great combination. We must mention too, the other great thing about you is that you're Italian. I mean,
well, yeah.
Come on.
Joanne's got to put
Italian with
that
a funny
in there.
nose.
I want to tell you that Joanne and I are big goal setters and we're big vision board creators. We've been doing that for a long, long time. And I just have to tell you that when we very first started our business 15 years ago, one of the highlights of our vision board, and it was on the vision board for a long time, was that our number one goal as a company was to be published in House Beautiful.
Oh.
And so we've been published a lot over the last 15 years, not in House Beautiful, but I have to say that speaking with you today comes very close to meeting that goal.
Yes.
And it's just been like, I have goosebumps. I mean, it's just a big day.
Good. Well, thank you. Listen, I when I say I'm competitive, I think you have to be, you can be competitive, but you could also be nice. And one thing I learned in this industry, because I was in fashion for a while, and you have to have manners and you have to have integrity and you have to be nice to people because it gets you so far.
I couldn't agree more.
And I will not put up with any of the BS and any bad behavior and any attitude. What we've been through with this pandemic and obviously what we've been through with Black Lives Matter and the hatred and the crime and this last year has been really, really beyond heinous. And I think a lesson goes out. Kindness wins. I may not want to have lunch or dinner with you. That's fine. But kindness wins and manners. And when people say, oh, you're so intimidating, I'm not intimidating. I'm private. And I don't let people in. But when I do,
well, I think it says a lot about you that you would take the time to try to mentor designers and give back with the career that you've had, because not a lot of people do that.
That's the whole thing. When I said, Joe, I have this idea, and she said, oh my God. I said, Joe, no one has ever done this. Yeah, I get projects. We have a column that anyone could submit a project. You don't have to be a designer. You don't have to be a designer to submit a project. You never know what you're going to find. Okay, so we get a lot of projects in that folder, and then designers and photographers send me projects, and then I decided to open the door to designers and talk to designers and care about designers.
Well, I'll just give everybody a quick one. Kelly was somewhere, was not able to be on the call, which she was devastated. So yes. I had you all to myself.
Kelly, sign up and we'll do a one-on-one with you. Just sign up with Tiffany and we'll get you on that list.
Oh yes, Tiffany, I am calling you.
But what is so great, and Kelly and I are both Northerners as well, and
I'm a New Yorker.
There's no point in trying to fluff something up. If something's really wrong, that's the kind of feedback people need to hear. If that room is all wrong, I mean, we had a very candid conversation, and I think that that's really a wonderful thing. And here in the South, everybody's sweet and doesn't want to ruffle feathers and whatever. But I think that it's when you are that honest and frank that's when you really help people.
Well, and that's how you learn, right? By being open to that kind of feedback and bettering yourself. So that's what this whole conversation with you is all about today, Robert.
Well, the point is, look, I am at a certain age. We're not going to lie about that, and I'm dealing with young people who I have two assistants who are in their 20s. I work with people who are in their 30s. There's videos, there's all these Zoom things, there's all these different new ways of working. So, they're teaching, listen, I'm learning every day. And also I'm giving them my gift in my eye. This is how we set a table. This is how we do flowers. This is how we move the furniture around, look through the camera,
I'm sure those etiquette lessons and those style lessons that you teach them are so invaluable. Thankfully, I had a grandmother who went to finishing school in New York, and she passed down all those Emily Post lessons, and I've passed them down to my kids. But I think it's a fading art that you're teaching these kids.
Well, listen, it gets me angry. I always say, "Oh my God, I'm like from my generation of editors, there are very few editors of my age still working and doing things. And I feel like, I'm not ready to stop, and I don't think I'll ever stop. I may be doing it differently, but I always want to do something that's creative. And it's not work. It's part of my life. It's like my lover,
I think when you're in a creative industry, your work is, you feel like you're getting paid for doing what you love. So that's
how we feel.
That's a bonus.
And listen, do I like all the paperwork? Do I like all this? Do I like all that? No, but, talking about, funny story. When I went to Tiffany's in 1996, the store had not been renovated. It needed so much work, and they hadn't had a new Christmas in years. So I started I don't know, in May or something. And I had to have a Christmas design by August to get it in production. And so it was, I had to have the finals done by August. So it was like in July, we had all these garlands come up to the third floor, which was the home floor at that time. And, there was two of my assistants and the manufacturer who, assembled my vision. And we were looking at them, and there was a porter, Mr. Perez, who was probably retired, who was probably 80 years old or in his late 70s. And we were looking at that, and I turned around and I said, Mr. Perez, what do you think? This is the God's honest truth. Whatever that man said, I looked at him and I looked at everyone and I said, he's absolutely right. You never know where something is going to come from. So when you're on a shoot, it's collaboration. The assistant to the photographer may see something that I don't see, or the designer. I'm not going to say I agree all the time, but you have to let people contribute and thank them for that, because they're seeing we all see things differently. It's like, oh, gee, wow, yeah, you're right. And everyone
That's
looked
great
at
advice.
Me, are you insane? I went, whatever Mr. Perez said, I'm sure he's up in heaven now, was, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I said, guys.
Well, one last question before we wrap up and we go to our funny and our serious quote that we wrap up every podcast with. So you cooked up this amazing idea with Joanna during COVID and 2020. So do you have anything else up your sleeve as we enter this new age of 2021?
Well, I think, as I said, we are going to be celebrating 125 years of House Beautiful. So we have some surprises. And also, last year I started the Rufino Report, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yes.
We pick a subject each issue, and I did a thing on the influence of Dorothy Draper. I did a thing on summer camp, and that's a lot of fun. And I used to put together all these vignettes, and then I said, well, I can't go into a studio. We can't call all this merchandise in because of the pandemic. So I started using illustration. And I love illustration. Nice. I love, it's so old world, but using it today. And that's something I brought into the magazine that sets us apart from other other magazines. It's in the magazine every month. I do the Rufino report, and that's been very rewarding and great fun. I will continue to go back to doing shoots, doing my report, talking to designers, being on panels, and how we will be celebrating our 125th anniversary is a surprise.
Ooh. That's very exciting. We'll be on the lookout for that. So you can also, you've got a great Instagram. It's called The Robert Rufino. And so check that out on Instagram.
I need to do Instagram more. Sometimes I just stop. And it's not always about interior design. It's just about...
That's why it's so great.
Yeah, that's why it's good.
It's not just one-sided, It's like the day in the life of,
Yeah.
But listen, life changes and we get inspired. I walk down the block and get inspired. I had a huge walk this morning in Central Park at 7:30 with a friend, and just looking the way someone was dressed, looking at a color palette of, wow, that's interesting. Thinking of, wow,
Well, obviously your eyes are wide open and your ears are wide open and you're aware, and that's what makes you so great.
You have to. One other thing, like some people say to me, what's wrong with my pictures? Well, like when a designer doesn't use a stylist, number one, there's no surprise in the room. The flowers are too perfect. Put flowers in a vase like you just put them in. Don't do all this fussy arranging. You went to the garden or you went to the field or go to the flower market and just let the flowers breathe and let them take on their own life. And it's not a perfect world. Flowers are not perfect. They have different shapes like we do. Have fun what you do. And I do have fun. And as I said, I take my job very, 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 very seriously. But at the end of the day, I have fun and it's rewarding. And it's rewarding to bring people into my world, whether they're designers or writers. And we all help one another. And that's important.
Well, that's a wonderful testament to you, and we so appreciate you joining us today. I think it's going to be one of our most favorite podcasts.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway.
It will be for sure. We'll watch those analytics soar.
It's funny, just you asked me about being on the best dress list. I laugh. I don't, listen, when I worked at Tiffany's, all my suits were custom made. I wore cufflinks every day. Everything was the best of the best. And, I still have lots of suits that I wear, but, I dress differently. Do I still wear a suit? My signature is like blue jeans, my custom made shoes. I still wear shirts and ties with a blazer, not a whole suit all the time. But I don't, okay, I'm going to wear this. Or it's, when you don't think about it and it just comes from your heart or it just comes from within, you can't go to school to learn style. You may know how to go. You may go to school to learn how to do flowers or set a table, but it's something that I don't know where it came from. But I was born.
It's those Italian genes. I'm telling you, it's those Italian genes.
Just to end the story, I was a very sick young boy. I nearly died a few times. I had an illness, and through that, I became dyslexic. And, I'm not ashamed to say, I have a hard time reading. I used to have a hard time spelling. My hands became my art. My eyes and hands were important to me. And when I got over, I'm still a little dyslexic. I am. But, what am I going to do to fulfill? And you have to have a dream. And some of my friends today say, oh, when are you going to stop working? It's like, you know what? Whatever I do is for myself, to see how far I can go, how far up I can go on that ladder. It's just to say, why can't I do this? Challenge yourself.
I know you're a very private person, but I really, really hope that if the next time Joanne and I are in New York, or if you ever come to Atlanta, that maybe we could be on the private person list and we could at least have a cocktail, because I could chat with you forever.
Absolutely. And, and sign up and call Tiffany and
I
sign up.
still get a call, Joanne.
Okay.
And you have your own session.
Wow.
And I thank you very much. I really hope this was helpful.
It really is.
It really was so great.
It's just such a so great to see that, you probably, once again, this was not on your radar, but you are a mentor. I mean, our podcast today, there's going to be somebody listening that's going to get a nugget of this.
Yep.
That can really maybe transform, the way they're doing business, or the way they look at a project.
Whoever your audience is, you can tell them to, look online or wherever we have it posted. And any of these designers from Atlanta or whoever is listening to you when you launch this podcast, to make an appointment. I love to meet new people. Yeah. I love to help people. I love to discover new projects. It may be right, or it may be, a project. It doesn't mean a designer is not good or a project is not good. It has to be the right fit, and the bottom line is, right now, the biggest challenge, House Beautiful is going to only be 6 times a year. So a lot of projects we have to put online, but that's happening through the industry. Elle Decor now is 8 issues a year. Domino is only 2 issues a year. I think traditional home, 4 times a year. Veranda, which is part of Hearst as well as Elle Decor, Veranda is 6 times a year. And Showcase.
I love turning pages.
Yes. Magazines are not going away. There may be less of them, but they're not going away. Listen, it's been a great, great pleasure. If I could answer any more questions along the way.
Well, if you want to hang with us for 1 second, we'll go ahead and do our funny and serious quotes that we end every podcast with.
God. Oh, yeah. All right.
These aren't quotes from you. These are quotes that we,
find on Instagram or whatever.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to do the funny one?
Okay, sure. So, can someone please explain to me why we are taking temperatures of men? Because I have never seen a man with a fever up walking around. That is so true. My husband's getting his second shingle shot today, and guaranteed he's out. He's out for 2 days. I mean, I'm going to hear it. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the serious quote. Actually,
Are you saying women are stronger than men?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Some are.
When it comes to the health department.
I will tell you one thing. My best bosses have always been great ladies. From the founding president of the real Henry Bendel, when it was on 10 West 57th Street in the most glorious townhouse. It was a wonderful way of growing up. I've worked for Geraldine Stubbs. We had a friendship for 33 years. And then I worked for the legendary Carrie Donovan for the New York Times. I worked for the amazing Margaret Russell, who was a brilliant editor of Elle Decor and then Architectural Digest. And I worked with some male editors who were great. And now I'm working with this young editor who has this great energy, who has a different point of view. And there's something about Joanna that's very special. So
we hit the nail on the head with that one.
Your point there, you got me.
Yeah,
serious quote. Here we go.
Ready?
And this is probably how you live your life too. 10 things that require 0 talent. 1, being on time.
Yes.
2, making an effort.
I hate
3, being high energy. 4, having a positive attitude. 6, being passionate.
Mm-hmm.
You missed 5, being passionate.
6, using good body language. 7, being coachable. 8, doing a little extra. 9, being prepared. And 10, having a good work ethic.
Well, there you go. That's Robert Rufino in a nutshell.
That sounds great. And I'm a firm believer in handwritten thank you notes.
Oh, you know what? That was on my vision board for 2021 to write more.
A lost art, manners. Manners.
Yes.
When I hold the door for people, they look at me like, huh? It's like, yep, right. Okay, let's go.
That's good.
Anyway.
Well, have a great year. And we hope to run into you this year.
All right, so make that appointment.
I will.
Okay. Thanks so much, Robert.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Take care.
Be well.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
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 Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Kandrak Cole. And of course, you've got to visit them online at kandrak-cole.com for more information.